Now straight to the details. Thank you again for taking the time to join us. The Prime Minister of Rwanda, Dr. Justin Nsengiyumva, on Saturday held a press conference to address different issues, most notably how Rwanda is dealing with the current regional and global challenges. Among them was the country's agricultural performance in light of the environmental problems that have persisted due to the effects of climate change.
So when you talk about these subsidies, I think we should look at them into two categories. There are subsidies that are planned in the budget, and there are probably subsidies that are not planned in that budget. So when the Minister of Finance is preparing the budget, he looks at our capacity or how much money, for instance. So the budget is two sides. There is the revenues and there is the expenditure. So he looks at the revenues and say, we are going to be collecting this amount of money on this side, and then on that side, he says, after collecting this money, we are going to spend it on XYZ. So one of the XYZ he's going to spend money on, there are subsidies on fertilizers, for instance, subsidies on seeds production, that kind of things. So those are the things that the Minister of Finance considers that they are important. We need to help people to do it with that, because for agriculture, if I can take both together, we want our farmers to use fertilizers. But we know, given the prices at the international market, these prices are too high. They won't be affordable for them if we leave them to use their pocket just to buy those fertilizers. The Minister of Finance is aware that these farmers will not be able to afford it. So he brings in that subsidy to help them afford the fertilizers and then use them, which the Minister of Finance really is trying to increase productivity and output in agriculture. So that is something that is planned for, and that has no problem. So in the coming budget, I think we have really enough money for that, for fertilizers, for seeds, for irrigation, for post-harvest management. So we really have enough money to deal with that, and it will be dealt with. The other category of subsidies is something that comes kind of as a surprise or something that was not planned for. For instance, if during the course of the year, the prices of fuel go up and it was not planned for. That means the Minister of Finance, if we have to subsidize that fuel, that means the Minister of Finance will go into his budget, and as you say, he have to reprioritize. As we are talking today, we have taken a kind of new approach of budgeting where we have different scenarios. So we have the budget that we are following, but anytime we ask the minister, we have a problem with this, let's say, $100 million. We have a loophole of $100 million. The Minister of Finance knows which projects can be cut immediately or can be stopped for the next year or the years to come. So we have all that information. That's why I was saying we are prepared. We don't do subsidization just for the sake of subsidization or because a neighboring country is doing subsidization, we do it. No, we do it because it is one of the options that we prepared when we were preparing our budget. So I'm not going here to say it is project A, B, C, D. You understand why I'm not going to say it. But what I'm telling you is we have that information. If it comes for us to have to do it, we know where to go. Yeah. And for, as I said, for agriculture, for the rural sector, we have the budget for that, and it is now planned for next year, and we know where to do. Probably someone else talked about the agriculture. Yes, Trésor, maybe as I'm talking about that, you mentioned I went to Parliament and said we intend to increase productivity in agriculture by 50%. Yes, that's true. And why we are saying that, when we talk about this budget that I'm mentioning, that's where we come and say, if we invest this in agriculture, there is a big chance that it is going to produce this level of productivity and this level of output. So the subsidies that we have on fertilizers, on seeds production, on irrigation, so because there are so many irrigation schemes that we are funding, all that tells us that we are likely to achieve the 50% increase in productivity. And as we said, the post-harvest management is also part of that budgeting and that planning. So I can say, yes, we're confident that we're going to do it, and we have the mechanisms that are going to help us to make sure that it is done.
In health matters, the Ebola outbreak in the region was also raised by journalists, with the Minister of Health giving a summary on Rwanda's level of preparedness.
For any country to be prepared, you need to work on 5 things. Communication awareness, number 1. Number 2, surveillance. Number 3, diagnostic capacity, detection. Number 4, you need to have capacity for contact tracing to know who has the disease, who met who. And number 5, case management. That's why you have therapeutics, treatment centers. So on those 5 fronts, we always check on our capabilities, and it's not the first time. So awareness, this discussion is part of that, and we're doing it in a balanced way because we don't have Ebola in Rwanda, and we don't wish to have Ebola, and that's the goal the government of Rwanda has. We never had it. So as you know, the Ebola is not far from our borders, and we don't wait to know it when it's already too close. So we've been following closely what is happening in the epicenter, in DRC, in Uganda, and our aim is to know exactly the movements of this trend and how we adapt our capabilities. So as we speak, our teams are activated from different institutions to make sure we know and we react quickly. On diagnostics, we have capacity to detect Ebola and all strains of Ebola. There are 6 strains of Ebola, and this one is particular, Bundibudio. It's rare, but we can also test it. We can detect it. We have labs in each province. On the contact tracing, we've done it before many times, and whenever we have a suspect, we have a system that alert our health institutions, and I can say within minutes of alert we can act quickly, know who has symptoms and test, and within 6 hours have results. That is very important. And on treatment centers and case management, we have already treatment centers. Our teams are conducting simulations so that they are not surprised, or they know exactly. Training is important, and they have been training almost every day on those who collect sample, those who handle patients, those who do infection prevention control, the doctors who inject medications. So that's why when the Right Honourable Prime Minister asked us if we are prepared, he said, yes, we are prepared. So we will keep informing you and the public, but Our teams are ready, capable, and we believe that Ebola will stay away from Rwanda.
On economic matters, the Prime Minister noted that the country's economy remains strong, with growth projected to reach as much as 6.8% this year. During the briefing, Justin Nsengiyumva presented an overview of the country's economic performance and highlighted on how various sectors have contributed to its growth. The Prime Minister also stated that although rising fuel prices are placing pressure on citizens, measures introduced by the government to ease the burden, including providing faster and more affordable transportation services, have already begun to yield results. During the press briefing, the Prime Minister announced that the government plans to continue strengthening public transport services. Before the end of this year, an additional 100 electric buses will be introduced, while a further 300 electric buses are expected to be added by the end of next year. Now, Lottery Club of Kigali Golf has launched a campaign to raise as much as $250,000 to purchase a machine for the University Teaching Hospital of Kigali that is to be used in the treatment of cancers affecting the male reproductive system. Seashika receives around 1,000 patients every month suffering from cancers of the male reproductive system, and about half of them require surgery. The hospital's management has noted that the machine would be highly valuable in providing such treatment.
A simple example, like these first 2 quarters of this year, means 6 months, in our outpatient clinic in neurology, so far we have seen around 6,000 patients. In those 6,000, more than half of them, they presented with symptoms of obstructive prostate gland. So you understand the magnitude. In those half, roughly 3,000, at least 1/3 of them needs at least surgery to be relieved so that they can go back to their daily normal activities. So you understand the magnitude of the burden of our patients, and having this machine is going to help us to help those patients. Turnover will be very quickly, and we will be able to work on many patients in short time.
The president of Lottery Club of Kigali Golf announced that members of the club have already pledged $27,000 at the launch towards the initiative. She added that she and her team are confident that they will be able to raise the full amount needed for the machine.
But on a serious note, this machine will save lives, it will reduce suffering, it will shorten hospital stays, it will reduce the need for patients to travel abroad for treatment, and it will strengthen healthcare service here in Rwanda. But fellow Rotarians and friends, I cannot do this alone. The club cannot do this alone. So tonight, I sincerely appeal to all of you, our partners, our sponsors, our friends, and all well-wishers. Please support us in making this dream a reality.
Doctors say that the machine has the advantage of allowing cancer surgery to be performed with minimal incisions, enabling patients to recover faster. Among men over the age of 60, 36 out of every 100,000 are affected by cancers of the reproductive system. In addition, between 5% and 12% of adults, including men, experience kidney pain caused by small kidney stones and may require such surgery. Now, the Organization of African Voice of Directors has pointed out that enhancing the knowledge and skills of board directors helps improve the performance of both public and private institutions, thereby contributing to the country's economic development. The UK-based Institute of Directors has been providing training to board directors aimed at strengthening their capacity in corporate governance, strategic planning, decision-making, and other key leadership areas. Participants say the knowledge they have gained will help them perform their responsibilities more effectively and contribute to the growth of their organizations.
For board directors, we've had courses in finance, in strategy, legal, etc. And we believe this is a training that is at an international level, and we believe it will help us to benchmark our practices, our governance practices in Rwanda with those of large companies that are listed on the London Stock Exchange, for example. And we believe it's going to help us improve the practices of governance, finance, strategy in companies that we work for.
The CEO of Bank of Kigali is speaking there. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of African Voice of Directors has announced that the organization plans to continue offering training programs for board directors in Rwanda and across Africa, while the representative of the Institute of Directors reiterated that the organization's objective is to continue promoting good governance around the world.
And our aim is to elevate, the standards of good governance, to trust in ethical leadership right across the world. We are the professional association, if you like, continues to build on the work that he's doing here. And, it is completely admirable, and we're very pleased to be part of that.
Over the past 30 months, the program has trained more than 120 leaders and professionals, with 23 of them attaining full professional qualification status and receiving professional certification. Now to sports matters, and beyond building a league, the vision of basketball in Africa is much bigger. An entire ecosystem where sports and technology, business and culture coverage to shape the continent's future. That was the message from NBA Africa President Claire Kamanzi as she outlined a bold shift towards sustainable, investable sports businesses powered by innovation, long-term investment and world-class standards as the Basketball Africa League enters its next phase. Take a look.
What we are doing is not just building a league, we are building an ecosystem where sports, technology, business and culture come together to shape Africa's future. Together with our partners, we are unlocking the power of data to transform fans' experience, the game, and connect our stories in real time. We are also exploring how technology and systems can drive operational excellence, ensuring African sports properties are built with scale, efficiency, and world-class standards. That's exactly what we stand for. But going beyond the game also means thinking long-term and thinking sustainability. The opportunity in Africa is not just to host events. It's also important to bring this experience to our fans, but it's to build sustainable, investable sports businesses and to build sports economies across the continent. The BAL has experienced strong growth over its first 6 seasons, with improvements in competition level, as many of you have seen, in fan engagement and overall reach. The next phase of BAL will focus on transitioning, as you've heard us say the whole week, into a franchise model, bringing in long-term investors with permanent team ownership within the BAL. So basketball is more than sport. It is connections. It's connecting to music, to fashion, to storytelling, to technology, and many parts of the wider economy. Through the BAL, we are proud to help power Africa's creative economy and amplify its voice on the global stage. This is not just about the future of basketball. It's about the future of sport, the future of business and culture. It's also about the future of Africa.
More than 3 decades after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, Rwanda's global standing tells a story of resilience and renewal. Rebuilding trust on the international stage was not an easy task. Ambassador Joseph Mutaboba sat with RBA's William Evans Mutabazi to reflect on those early diplomatic challenges and the pride of seeing Rwanda emerge as a strong and trusted global partner.
After genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, the first envoys, the first diplomats who were sent out were very few, very, very few, because of the way, because of what we inherited as a system. And it was very tough because going to a foreign country for the first time as the ambassador or as a chargé d'affaires as I was not an easy thing, because you have to start from the scratch. You are received by diplomats who don't believe in you, those who have to go and leave, or who have to accept to stay and work with you. So you don't speak the same language in terms of orientation. And that was tough. Secondly, we all were sent without any budget. No budget, including the ticket. They told me to take the first flight out of London and go to Washington. I could not say, where's the ticket? Not even a passport. There was no passport. So you still have to go. So that shows you that we had a lot of problems to work with, you know. And once you are on the ground, also we had the systems which had been working with the former government of Rwanda, which had overseen the genocide against Tutsis. So how do you convince now the leadership you found on the ground that you are better than the ones who are outgoing, and what is your plan, what is your political plan, and so on? It was tough, because sometimes you have to deal with people who aligned, who find themselves very much relationally very keen at the outgoing government. So who would say, no, you guys, you are only rebels, you are only Bush people, you don't have to relate. The government is the one which left. And there are people who were as strong as that. So to deal with that, we have to be to be tactful. It took us time, of course. So it's a painstaking exercise which we had to go through, but we had to do it and do it right. Lately, we have to say, now, what do we do? You know, there are some people who see us as a new opportunity also. Say, like Taiwan. I was giving the example of that, Taiwan. We say, look, we know you are just out of a terrible situation in Rwanda. You need money, and he was right. But we need you to recognize us as a government compared to China. So recognize us, and we give you $80 million. Said, oh, look, no matter how young diplomat or new diplomat I am, I cannot accept that, because there is a basic knowledge of what Taiwan versus China means. So we cannot play around with just because we need money to take a decision which will be against the thing. So that's the kind of examples I'm giving you. Or Japan will say, okay, we will help you, but please make sure there is a flag, a Japanese flag, on each site we are working on it. I say, yes, that's no problem at all. So there are things which were very easy to deal with, but there are tricky ones you could not easily respond to. So you have to call, consult with the capital and say, what do we do in this case? You know, so it happened. But we lived with that, and especially without budgets. That's it, you know. So we had to run embassies with our own family budgets. Luckily enough, we had some we could spare at that time. Most is the input from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'll tell you that one, and the government of Rwanda, where you move from the traditional, classic bilateral relations with the countries, and you multiply the number of those countries to just for the sake of being known as we have, as a country which relates with many countries. That's not enough, and that was not the strategic way we did. It was rather saying, look, the few countries we have, we can slowly go adding more, but based on what we need, based on what we want to give to the country and to the people of Rwanda. So that helped us to shape up a bit and be also focused and say, yes, we want A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, but our priorities would go to rather A, C, and Z. You see? And being strategic like that way, to say, we know what we want, we know how we want it, but we do not have what we want. So, but we know how to choose. That choosing is very crucial. And it moved from the classic traditional relations towards the more focused economic focusing, which is very important. Because Rwanda is a country which is building itself. So we said, where do we need more inputs? Where do we need more partnerships other than aid? No, you know the policy Rwanda has vis-a-vis AIDS. Aid is something which should disappear. And thank God, the younger diplomats who came after us have done and are doing a very good job in that line. So Rwanda is partnering with those who really see us, in the eyes of a good partners we have to do it. And we do business with them. That's a good focus. And I congratulate my fellow diplomats today who are still active. Keep it up.
I'll be back again for the news. That is for the next edition. Until then, I look forward to seeing you. Goodbye.